All right, let's talk about that judge, Hannah Dugan, in Wisconsin, basically a county level Superior Court judge who was arrested inside of her courtroom last Friday for some events that took place in the courthouse where she's located the Friday before that. So I'm looking at the criminal complaint, the affidavit in support of a criminal complaint that has been filed against her. There's an affidavit from Lindsay Schlomer, who is an FBI agent currently assigned to the White Collar Crimes Squad, which investigates corruption crimes. And they are charging this judge with obstruction, obstructing or impeding a proceeding before a department or agency, as well as concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest. So, a few initial thoughts. First of all, this is intimidation of the judicial branch, flat out. They started this with a state judge because they didn't want to go right to arresting a federal judge, because then you got all kinds of separation of powers issues going on. One branch arresting someone from a different branch. This is meant to intimidate judges nationwide because the Trump administration has been getting their ass handed to them in court from coast to coast, at the state court level, at the federal court level, the appellate level, and from the United States Supreme Court. And they arrested her inside her courtroom, presumably while she was wearing her robe. I don't think it's accidental that the first judge that they arrested is a woman. And, you know, think back to Donald Trump being indicted on 91 felony counts in 4 separate jurisdictions. He was never handcuffed. He was never arrested at his golf club. Each of those jurisdictions allowed him to turn himself in. Think back to the Mueller investigation and the dozens and dozens of people who were indicted as a result of the Mueller investigation. Every single one of them was allowed to self-surrender, including people who ended up getting lengthy prison sentences before they were pardoned by Donald Trump. This judge, they arrested her inside her courtroom. It is meant to intimidate judges, period. There was absolutely no reason to do it that way. And so the broad strokes of what happened, some ICE agents appeared in her courtroom in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on March 18th, 2025, a week and a half ago, to arrest Eduardo Flores Ruiz. He was charged with 3 counts of battery, domestic abuse, infliction of physical pain or injury. And he was there, I think, for like either an arraignment or a case status hearing. And he had not yet been proven guilty of these charges, but apparently there were some witnesses there who were alleging that they were victims of Mr. Flores Ruiz. So it's something to consider. Some ICE agents showed up in her courtroom. They did not notify her or the chief judge, the presiding judge. So in any county courthouse like that, you're going to have judges who hear probate cases, criminal cases, family law cases, civil cases, restraining orders. And then they rotate who these people are. One of the judges will serve as a presiding judge, who basically their job is to keep the courthouse running, make sure that the judges are actually getting their orders done on time, making sure that cases aren't lagging. And the presiding judge often sets like the policies and procedures for each individual courthouse. And so this particular courthouse, as of yet, did not have any policies or procedures for how they were going to handle circumstances when ICE agents would show up to arrest someone in the courthouse. are those arrests, because I think there were 6 ICE agents who showed up in her courtroom. Presumably they were armed. They were there to effect an arrest warrant, but it was an administrative arrest warrant. It was not a criminal arrest warrant. An administrative arrest warrant is an arrest warrant, but it is not a warrant that has been before a judge. ICE agents can fill out their own administrative arrest warrants and just sign it and say, I have a warrant. No opportunities for abuse there. It was not a criminal warrant where they had presented evidence to a judge who had signed off on it by saying, you have shown me enough evidence that you should be able to arrest this individual. And so administrative warrants are shaky to begin with. And from what I understand, part of Judge Dugan's issue was, this is an administrative warrant. You haven't shown me a criminal arrest warrant. I need you to go talk to the chief judge, the presiding judge, because I don't know what the policies or procedures are here. And the allegation is that when these ICE agents went to talk to the presiding judge, that Judge Dugan intentionally allowed Mr. Flores Ruiz to go through a back door in the courtroom and try to escape or something. Well, first of all, I've been in a lot of courtrooms in my lifetime, over the course of my career. The back door in a courtroom is typically where the judge enters and exits, where the jury enters and exits. Nobody goes through that door, period. Unless, unless it's like counsel and a judge was like, all right, we're going to go discuss this in my chambers. That is not an area that is open to the public at all, ever, period, in my experience. And I find it really suspicious, the allegation that a superior court judge with several years' experience would permit an indicted, charged criminal defendant and his attorney to go into that area of the courthouse. I'm not buying that at all. And that's not where ICE agents ended up arresting this guy. They arrested him in public, outside. Because once you get back into the area where the jury deliberates and where the judge's chambers are, to exit that, you exit into a public area, into a public space. And which Mr. Ruiz and his attorney eventually ended up in a public space on the same floor as the courtroom. They rode down an elevator. Inside the elevator car was one of the ICE agents who was there to arrest him. So the judge, there's no allegation that the judge said, okay, you come back here and you and your attorney can sit in the jury deliberation room for the next few hours until we figure out what's going on. There's no allegation that the judge attempted to hide him. And also, judges are in control of their own courtrooms, period. Judges are in control of the proceedings that take place in their courtrooms, period. There's no wiggle room on that. Judges control who comes in to their courtroom, period. And they pretty much have blanket immunity for those things. Immunity from civil suit, immunity from prosecution. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that develops in this case. But anyway, regardless of how he got there, Mr. Flores Ruiz wound up with his attorney on an elevator with an ICE agent. And they took the elevator down. They went outside. There's an allegation that he tried to run, but the ICE agents arrested him. And so, and that's the government's version of what took place, because that's what's contained in the criminal complaint that's signed off on by an FBI agent. Uh, so it's like when that's the rosiest version of events that the government can come up with, and multiple courts, including the United States Supreme Court, has demonstrated in recent weeks that the Trump administration is not to be fully believed in what they say in court, in oral arguments, in pleadings that they file with the court. Judges don't trust the Trump administration. They don't. And so it's like when the government itself can't come up with a more ironclad version of events, other than she alleging that she let him out a side door that still led to a public area where he was eventually arrested. This case is incredibly weak. It is incredibly weak. And I mean, it's like, I say I want to know who signed off on the decision to prosecute this judge. And again, not just the decision to prosecute this judge, the decision to put this judge into handcuffs inside of her own courtroom. But, it's got Pam Bondi and Stephen Miller written all over it, in my mind, and Kash Patel. And that's what happens when you put shitty people in important places. But, but because there is a 2-count federal indictment now, criminal indictment pending against this judge, she's been suspended by the Wisconsin Supreme Court, by the state court, and we're going to have to let this play out. The Trump administration arrested 1 or 2 judges during his first term for similar kind of stuff, and charged them with similar kinds of things. And those cases were dropped. So we'll see what happens with this. But I think Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Stephen Miller are much more motivated this time. And they are literally lying about every single thing in every single case. So it's like, are they going to go forward with this? And if they do, are the judges going to believe them? Or is this particular judge going to go with a jury trial? That should be interesting. So we will keep our eye on developments with Judge Hannah Dugan, and I'll keep you guys posted.